If I see further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. Players who have laid foundations, pushed boundaries, and some who have left the game long behind. But their contributions to speedrunning will not be forgotten. Join me now as we go back and examine the careers and triumphs of past champions. The first truly dominant champion of Perfect Dark, Paragon may arguably be the most influential Perfect Dark speedrunner of all time. The story of Paragon is one that I'm sure many of you have never heard, but it is a story worth telling. Many of the techniques and strategies used still to this day can be directly attributed to this one gamer. Paragon was there from the beginning. Part of the Founding Fathers, a group of 7 speedrunners that formed the Perfect Dark Elite on July 5th, 2000. 2 weeks later, he would have his first major discovery. On July 19th, 2000, Paragon discovers the quick draw mechanic. By selecting a weapon from the pause menu at the right time, you can force Joanna to draw it quicker. While this technique was first used to allow players to achieve 3 seconds on the duel on the Agent difficulty, it has since been adapted to many other levels and is a staple of Perfect Dark speedrunners. Throughout July and August of 2000, Paragon played religiously, posting daily on the community message boards and discussing and crafting new strategies. When the point rankings were established on the 1st of August, Paragon wasn't first. He held a few records, but had not yet reached his peak. Ahead of him, 2 men battled for the number 1 position, Marshmallow and Snapdragon. These 2 players would exchange the championship reign several times before Paragon finally broke through on September 5th and became champion for the first time. 5 days later, Marsh would fight back and reclaim the number 1 spot. On the 12th of September, Marshmallow posts his last personal best ever and retires from Perfect Dark. With Marsh out of the picture, Paragon was able to quickly retake the lead 3 days later on the 15th of September. On the 17th of September, Snapdragon would make his final stand as champion, dethroning Paragon for a massive 12 hours before Paragon takes back the number 1 title. From here, Paragon didn't look back. Over the next 1.5 years, he would remain champion for all but 22 days, briefly losing the championship after a month break in March of 2001. I can't emphasize enough how incredible it was that Paragon was able to be so dominant for so long in those early days. At that time, Perfect Dark was at its most active ever. New strategies were coming out every day. But amidst all of the chaos, Paragon always remained on top. We're going to talk about some of his greatest contributions and achievements. But if I were to sum up Paragon in one word, it would be fearless. He went for things everyone else was too afraid to do. He was a master of Perfect Agent, the hardest difficulty. When I looked at the things he accomplished, I would think to myself, I could never do that. He did things that no one else thought were possible, and he did them earlier than I think they really deserved to have been done. He was definitely ahead of the curve. On the 30th of December 2000, Paragon achieved what was considered for many years to be the greatest world record ever, Investigation Perfect Agent 251. A cut of 25 seconds from the existing record of 316, which was also held by Paragon. He was able to execute a strategy that was previously thought impossible. On Investigation Perfect Agent, the second objective is to activate a cleaning bot that will allow us to get through the triple set of lasers later in the stage. The activation of the cleaning bot basically creates a countdown timer, because if we do not complete the required objectives and make it through the first laser while the bot is deactivating it, we'll be stuck and forced to wait until the bot returns. In theory, it would be optimal to activate the cleaning bot as early as possible, complete all required objectives, and still make it through the lasers in time. There are two main objectives that require action before we get to the lasers: shut down the experiments and obtain items of experimental technology. Before Paragon's game-changing run, players were unable to complete the objectives and still make the first cleaning bot cycle. So they would collect one of the experimental items first, before going back and activating the bot. But Paragon was able to successfully activate the bot first, obtain the experimental items, and still, just barely, make it through the lasers. The run would remain unmatched for the next 9 months, until a faster strategy created by Jugador J3 allowed it to be beaten in September of 2001. As mentioned before, Paragon was a master of the perfect agent difficulty. On the 16th of February 2001, Paragon achieved a feat that had never been achieved before, nor has it since: a clean sweep of the perfect agent difficulty, simultaneously holding all 21 perfect agent world records at the same time. If we take a look at the world record leaderboard, you'll notice that each player has more agent records than perfect agent records. Agent levels are much simpler, shorter, and safer to run, allowing players to attain more records. A clean sweep of the agent difficulty has been achieved twice in Perfect Dark history. Once by Snapdragon in 2000, and once by me in 2003. But no other player in Perfect Dark or GoldenEye has achieved a sweep on any other difficulty, except for Paragon. Throughout 2000 and 2001, Paragon developed many strategies. I spoke briefly about two of Paragon's larger contributions in my video, Top 5 Biggest Skips in Perfect Dark Speedrunning. In June of 2001, he found both the defection glitch and the extraction door trick. For more information, definitely go and watch that video if you haven't already. But aside from his major discoveries, he also found many other techniques that are still used today. For example, on June 17, 2001, a week after discovering both the defection and extraction glitches, Paragon discovered that you can lure a guard to call down the first lift earlier on Mayan's special agent, immediately saving 7 seconds from the previous world record. This table here shows the total amount of time each player has cut from existing world records. You can see that Paragon has cut by far the most. Now granted, in the earlier years it was easier to lower world records as they were less optimized in general. However, if this were the only factor, you would see a greater distribution between active players of the time. Instead, you see Paragon dominating the others. This table shows total career world records. Paragon is third here, but the data shown isn't completely accurate. Unfortunately, the world records from August of 2000 and earlier weren't tracked, so they aren't included in this total. If we take a look at a snapshot from the ranks from August 12, 2000, we can see the dominance by the two previously mentioned champions, Snapdragon and Marshmallow, but we can also see sprinkles of world records from Paragon at this time. I'm sure Paragon's real world record tally is much higher than what is shown here. Paragon would remain incredibly active until October of 2001, at which point he all but stopped playing Perfect Dark. After 6 months of complete inactivity, Paragon was finally dethroned by the player Dark Avenger on the 29th of April 2002. Paragon would go on to post a handful of personal bests in July of 2002 while playing during a week-long meetup with fellow elites. The 18th of July 2002 would be the last time Paragon ever posted a time to the Perfect Dark Elite rankings. Paragon's career was relatively short, lasting only 2 years. But even still, he may stand as the most influential Perfect Dark player of all time. When he was active, he was untouchable and completely dominant. But on top of this, his strategic contributions are unparalleled. In this video, I only scratched the surface of Paragon's career. However, there is currently plans to begin a full Speedlore series which will go much more in depth and give you a much more complete picture. I plan to cover every single past Perfect Dark champion in this series. I'm really enjoying sharing this rich history with you. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video.